Welcome back to the Armchair Generals.
where we talk 40k's news, tactics, and lore.
And so much more. We hope you enjoy the video.
Welcome back to the Armchair Generals. Thank you for joining us today. As always, I am Crash, and with me I have Nova Star.
How's everyone doing?
And today we're going to be going over the new Codex Space Marines, but not in the traditional way, not really doing a unit breakdown and stuff like that. We are going to be going over the layout of the Codex. Nova and I have both voiced our appreciation for the way the Codex is built, laid out, you know, the unit rosters, the fluff, the lore, just the whole Codex, the way it's laid out. We've both been gaming for quite some time. For comparison, I have my 3rd edition Codex right here with my new 9th edition Codex. And but yeah, we're going to go over a little bit on that and just our appreciation for the work GW did on the book.
Yeah, the book is, in my opinion, probably one of the best codexes that they've done out of all the Space Marine ones. Just from the artwork that they use to some of the throwbacks to how they arrange the unit stats. I like how the stratagems are more forward focused instead of tacked on to the end. So overall, much happier with the book.
And it is a chunky boy. It's hefty. It's probably about 2/3 the size of the rule book, maybe even a little closer to 3/4. It's a big codex.
You know, before they made all the improvements to the Firstborn Space Marines, I would have been happy if they had just cut Primaris into Codex Primaris Marines and then Codex Space Marines separate.
Actually, that wouldn't have been a bad idea. Actually,
no, it calls itself out in being so big too in the very beginning. On page 3, it says few factions in Warhammer 40k have such an extensive range of Citadel miniatures as the Space Marines.
But I mean, even like the page layout, the art is just, I mean, not that that's art, that's models, but the page layout, the art, the way everything's structured, I mean, it's a gorgeous book.
Look, and we get everybody. When you put time and effort into your model, it is art. But when we are talking about art, we mean more of the flat 2-dimensional. What's the word? The
webcam doesn't like it when I hold this up.
No.
Yeah.
But like the classic definition of art.
Yeah, I mean the just what they have in here is just beautiful. There's so much fantastic art. There's some shots from older stuff that are reused very well, like this from the old Index of Astartes is reused very well. It looks fantastic. But yeah, no, I mean it really is a beautiful codex. And yeah, it's you know, price point reflects that, but I mean this thing looks as good as any role-playing book. You know, just the art, the layout, the design that goes into it. It looks as good as any role-playing book, you know, Pathfinder, D&D, whatever have you.
Right. And if someone's cheating at the table, I'm not saying you could knock them out with this, but you could totally knock them out with this.
Not that we recommend violence for solving your differences at the table, but if it should come to it, you have a weapon at hand.
Yeah. Don't use real violence in your game of Violent Toy Soldiers. I love all the tank pics, like the schematic pictures. Oh, it does not come through at all real good.
No,
those are some of my favorite pages.
Well, we used to get a lot of those in the older codexes, like, you know, like my 3rd edition codex here. We used to get a lot of stuff like that, diagrams and drawings, and
I love the when you go into the actual successor chapters and the different color schemes.
Remember that shot of old Marnius Calgar there?
Sure do. I mean, he was like cool back then, like actually a cool character. Now I mean, I'm going to use him in my army because I like the rules and I like to win games. but I don't actually like his fluff in background.
He's just Papa's little boy.
Well, he's just the best Primaris lieutenant on the block right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, they should have killed him. They should have killed him.
They should have done something. His death should have, I guess, maybe against Abaddon, and that's what I get, like, saved Vigilus. But yeah, he should have went out with a bang.
I mean, I understand that the model would no longer be usable, which is unfortunate, but
it's not true at all. Like, we still have rules for Tycho. Pre-Black Rage and post-Black Rage, and he has been dead for a long time in the game.
Do we still have
in the setting?
Tycho?
Oh yeah, they keep making rules for Tycho.
I mean, he's a cool character, but okay, well that's fair. Then they could keep the rules around but kill the character. He just lore-wise, they kind of gut punched him because Master of the Ultramarines, and now his Primarch is back. So
I mean, if the Lion comes back, Azrael's kind of out of a job too. same with Logan Grimnar. Like, it'd be awesome if the Primaris come back, but then these amazing chapter masters are kind of relegated to second string, and they feel like that in the fluff too that they've been writing.
Yeah,
or at least Calgar feels like that specifically because he's the only one who has to worry about that at the moment.
And then, for example, like, I mean, the older codexes. Like, you know, there's the really camera,
right?
Well, you can see little glimpses of it, but that's how the older codex is laid out, like, you know, new armies and stuff. But just for example, 3rd edition is when both Nova and I started. This is the 3rd edition codex next to the 9th edition codex. It is the 3rd edition codex is as thick as like the 2 hardcover pieces of the.
And when people say inflation, that 3rd edition codex was $25.
Yeah.
I mean, so yes, you're doubling the price, but you're way more than doubling the book.
There is a lot in here, and I mean, I've been one of the first people to complain every time we discuss codex prices. I've been quick to complain about it, but it's a huge book, and I mean the way the units are laid out. You know, everything about. Really, camera? Really gonna do this to me? But you get a little flavor blurb about it. You know, you get the rules, succinct, yes, succinct, concise. I like that we've got their weapon options like fully laid out again in the codex, rather than just go reference these pages clear across the codex.
Right.
Now your points costs are in back, but even your points cost is much better laid out. You have, you know, points values.
I like how they've baked a lot of the points into the overall pie of the model, to say. And where just certain extras or swaps cost points.
Your Terminator comes with a Power Fist and Stormbolter, but you need to calculate the points cost separately for the Terminator plus his Stormbolter and his Power Fist. That was frustrating with 8th edition. With 9th edition, it's clear they're moving forward with those points baked in. Hey, this is what the model comes with. It's part of its base points cost. And because of that, switching to like Lightning Claws on a Terminator, if I'm not mistaken, costs nothing.
Correct. It doesn't cost a thing.
Terminator, yeah.
Even if you take a Storm Shield on Assault Terminator, it doesn't cost anything. Only the Thunderhammer costs points. Granted, I think you have to take the Thunderhammer to take the Storm Shield option.
Yeah, Thunderhammer's 10 points. You do have to take the Thunderhammer to take the Storm Shield, but so Thunderhammer's 10 points. Which honestly, with the new changes to the Thunderhammer rules, I don't understand the points increase. With the loss of the AP down to AP2,
it's still the boogeyman weapon of 8th edition, so it got unfairly treated.
GW did their usual and double tapped it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why nerf it once when you can nerf it twice?
It's their class. It's a problem they do. I've made note of it numerous times over the years. When there's a problem, Games Workshop double taps the problem. instead of just fixing it a little bit and seeing how that pans out, they hit it with the Nerf bat until it stops breathing. Yeah, the Codex is beautiful. The art is fantastic. The layout is smooth and sleek. I don't have the Necron Codex yet, but I'm sure it's laid out the exact same way.
It is the exact same way.
Okay.
100%.
Given the time and care they've been paying to like the Age of Sigmar books in the recent past, you know, it bodes well for 40k, because I mean, like, this Lumineth Realm Lords book is a gorgeous book, and it utterly invokes the feel of the old High Elves, and which is definitely a good thing for the nostalgic players like myself that are still a little grumpy about them blowing up the old world. Invoking the feel of the army or faction, probably a good idea. But yeah, we both have been rather excited about the new layout. As you know, as long as, I mean, assuming all the codexes are going to follow that layout, I can't wait to see the Chaos Marine Codex.
Oh, it's going to be so cool. I was really unimpressed with the 8th edition Chaos Marine book, and then the 8.2. Like, even the artwork, the layout, I just didn't like it one bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it steered me away from the army. Like, just the Codex is just...
No, I mean, it's true. I mean, look at 3rd edition Chaos versus 3.5 Chaos. The Codex...
3.5 was like Michelangelo's David, like, of codexes.
It was. I mean, it was a fantastic codex. If they had followed that as a primer for the rest of the codexes, that would have made 3rd edition into 4th edition just utterly amazing. I mean, it was already a good edition and everything like that, but if they had brought everything up to about that power level, and the way that codex was laid out, the art, I mean, it was fantastic. Games Workshop used to be very, very good at this, and it looks like they're moving that way again.
Yeah. So they made some good moves in the graphical arts department, and that's definitely a plus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, look at the old Eldar Codex and the Craft World Eldar supplement. Those are gorgeous books. You know, the old Space Marine book. I mean, I wouldn't call the 3rd edition Space Marine book gorgeous, but you know, the layout is very clean, very clear, everything in its place. The old Orc Codex, like there was more flavor and life to the codexes. They weren't just rules. There was a lot of lore. There was even story advancement from codex to codex at times.
Oh, that's one of my favorite little bits about this new codex. And so back in 3rd and maybe 4th, I know 5th, I don't think they did it, but each unit on the page has a little blurb, like under the model's artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Or under the model shot, there's like a little bit of fluff just about that unit.
Yeah.
And that's how we got all unit fluff back in 3rd edition.
Yep, right here. It was along the sides in 3rd edition, which is where it is in 9th edition. It's along the sides. You know, laid out a little better in the 9th edition codex, but you know, this thing's 20 years old, so you know, give them a little credit. But
so yes, as an old grognard of a player, that makes me happy that they did that.
Well, it brings life back to the game, because I mean, the games felt very clinical for a while, and clinical is not a good feeling for a game you want people to get involved in and get, you know, stuck in with and spend thousands of dollars on as a business. You know, you don't want a clinical game. You want a game that has a visceral feeling to it, that there's something in the hobby you cling on to. And you know, like, I loved Tyranids. Tyranids is what got me into the hobby, as you know, and anybody that has watched our earlier videos knows. Tyranids is what pulled me in. And in 3rd edition, the 3rd edition Tyranid Codex still had that very visceral monster feeling, and then later codexes got very clinical.
Yeah, I think 4th had it, but it was, you could tell easily it was losing it. By the time it hit 5th, the Codex just felt so different.
And then 6th and 7th and even 8th edition, the codexes, they were so busy trying to get the codexes out that they didn't put any meat in them.
Right.
I mean, all the codex art was just reused from 7th edition.
Even the cover, though I like that cover.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The cover art. Sorry, not the art through that.
Gotcha.
Though a lot of art throughout the book was just reused art too. It's
One thing that's it's really cool because you're talking about internal art and stuff.
Yeah.
Is even though Ultramarines are always going to take a prominent center stage, it's toned down. So instead of 60-40, like 60% Ultramarines, 40% everyone else, I feel like it's 30% Ultramarines and 60% representation of all the other chapters combined.
And for us again, like the old Grognard players there, that's fantastic because I can look through this 3rd edition codex and there's not a lot of Ultramarines in here.
I don't think they became the poster boys in 3rd because even the cover was Crimson Fist.
Yeah, even the cover, Crimson Fist. That's what I'm saying. There was not a lot of Ultramarines in here. You had, I mean, it was spread out. I mean, looking at the characters here, Black Templar, Ultramarine Librarian, Ultramarine Chaplain, okay, Silver Skulls Veteran Squad, Imperial Fists Terminators, Crimson Fist Dreadnought. I don't think there's an Ultramarine Whirlwind. That's the only other Ultramarine unit that I see on this page.
Yeah, no, the Ultramarines I think took center stage with 4th and then definitely 5th.
4th edition was Matt Ward's Codex of Doom?
5th was.
5th, okay.
But 4th edition is when they put Calgar on the cover.
Yep. And Matt,
So somewhere in marketing's like, we're gonna make Ultramarines the poster boys.
and I mean, having a representative force is understandable, but I don't know. I mean, I do know. I don't think it was a good idea. I think it limited the world. It made 40k smaller, so to speak. 3rd edition and beforehand was, there was this vast unlimited potential for new Space Marine chapters and all kinds of awesome and crazy and wonderful things. And as time has gone on, they've shrunk the 40k universe significantly. Kind of like some people complain with Star Wars. They've said, with the Disney Star Wars movies, they've shrunk the universe because everything was Skywalker. Even 30 years later, it's all about the Skywalkers and it's all the same planets. And I mean, it really wasn't, but it was just another desert planet and another ice planet. Oh, back to Endor. And there's a lot of complaints about Disney Star Wars and that they've shrunk the universe. And I feel that way about 40K. They've shrunk the universe by, everything's Ultramarines or everything's Gazcult, even though there's a billion other orcs out there and dozens and dozens of other massive war bosses and warlords out there. Chaos, it's all about Abaddon and his forces, even though there's massive war zones that have nothing to do with Abaddon.
Right.
There's warlords that have, I mean, not as much power as Abaddon, but have significant power, on their own. And those get brushed over in the main lore and the main sweep of things. And it makes 40K smaller. And that's something we definitely don't want. We want 40K to be bigger with more opportunity for storytelling, especially in the form of crusades and narrative games. Everything's Hive Fleet Leviathan now, even though there's 8 or 9 other Hive Fleets out there.
Even though they're the worst color scheme.
The worst. I mean,
Behemoth
was a little bit of an eyesore, but Kraken was the classic, and Kraken was really good looking. Behemoth, I mean, yeah, eyesore, but hey, yeah. I mean, Eldar have become so generic. They really have.
I haven't read their codex in a while.
They're so generic now. They don't have the distinction and the flavor that they used to have. And I'm really, really hopeful with how much emphasis this places, because there's like 8 pages of other chapters in here.
Oh, just successors and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. There's each main chapter gets pages of stuff. Some get 1, some get 2. The major chapters.
We know who gets 2.
Ultramarine. But the successor chapters, like all the little successor chapters, get like 8 pages in here, and I love that. I love seeing the successor chapters, getting a little blurb about them, because that used to be what inspired people to do their own thing with Space Marines, and now it's become, oh, you're playing Ultramarines, oh, they have to be painted Ultramarines, and there's nothing in the rules that says they have to be painted Ultramarines. I mean, an individual tournament could say, hey, you can't have your Blood Angels being played as Ultramarines, because that'd be confusing rules wise. But for instance, I have a couple of custom chapters. As a longtime player, I've made up my own stuff, but I have the Grave Wardens, which I want to actually bring back and make their color scheme better. And with their color scheme was brown and bone. I think I'm going to change it a little bit, but just because it blends too much, and now that I paint, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But for me, like, I could paint them that color, and then I can play them as whatever I want. And that kind of focus has been narrowed quite a bit, in my opinion. Now, if you play Raven Guard, they must be painted like Raven Guard, or you cannot use Raven Guard rules. I mean, clearly, yeah, taking bright yellow Imperial fists and trying to say they're Raven Guard gets a little iffy, because people will be confused on like what rules they're using. It's easy to look at, it's like when people proxy models, it's easy to look at the model and forget what it's supposed to represent.
Right.
But I do really like the expansion that this book represents, taking the focus off Ultramarines. Yes, they're still the poster boys for Space Marines, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But they've taken the focus off of them and spread it around a little bit, and I love that.
I don't know if they did that quite to the extent with the Necron book, but they also don't have as many dynasties as there are Space Marine chapters.
Well, and Necrons have never really had a huge, heavy focus on an individual dynasty.
No, the whole dynasty thing didn't even come out until 8th edition.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't it just 8th edition?
Yeah.
Before that, there was
7th, you could run them all together, even though they said, well, I'm from here and you're from there. There was no distinction.
And it wasn't a huge part of their lore to have. So, yeah, this pharaonic Egyptian lore that they've built for Necrons is fairly recent. They introduced, little doses of it in the past, but a lot of this newer, heavy pharaonic, heavy Egyptian style lore for them is very much new. It's which I like. They're flushing out an existing army, making them, giving them deeper lore and everything like that. I like it, but it's definitely new. Yeah, I like the layout.
The layout is good, and it's better than the previous ones too, which would just give you the name of the unit and its stats, and then go on. Like, I much prefer little picture of the unit and little fluff blurb. It just brings so much more to it.
I like to read my codexes, not just have them as a rules reference. I like to read them, the lore and everything like that. Just like I read, I mean, I might be the weirdo here, but I read role-playing books. Do I read them cover to cover? No, not typically, but I love going through them and finding little lore bits and stuff to enrich the game.
No, it's like watching the appendices on the Lord of the Rings. Like, do you need to watch them? No. Do they add way more to the experience? Yes.
Yeah. But you started talking about Lord of the Rings, my mind just went to the Silmarillion. Never again.
Wow, that's a great book.
It is highly informative. Never again.
It's like, do you want to read the book, or would you like to read the Encyclopedia Britannica that explains what's going on in the book?
I mean, it is massively enlightening. If you are a Lord of the Rings fan and you have not read the Silmarillion,
You should.
you should. You should. It's tough. It's rough. It's dry. It's hard, but it has so much background lore and information on why the world is the way it is. I mean, it lends a whole new level of depth to Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's like playing 40k and then discovering, oh, there's story behind 40k.
It's like, yeah, discovering the whole Horus Heresy series, and you're like, what?
It really is. It's like that. Oh, you see some guys playing this model game, and you're like, oh, that looks fun. And so you play a little bit, and then you dive into the story and the books, and you find all this lore and whatnot. It really is a very similar experience. But again, never again.
That's okay. I've only read it once too.
And you're a much bigger Tolkienite. What do they call?
I don't even know what they call them.
Okay,
So I must not be that big of one if I don't know the nomenclature for our nerddom.
Well, you are definitely a much more of a Tolkien nerd than I am, but I do appreciate the books. And for me, I guess like Lord of the Rings is like I appreciate what it's done for fantasy as a whole and sci-fi some, just like Dune did for sci-fi. So for anybody that's not aware, a lot of 40k, like a lot of 40k, is drawn
Dune.
from Starship Troopers and Dune. Like,
yep.
And yeah, not Starship Troopers the movie, Starship Troopers the book, and Dune. Like a lot. Like Space Marines were originally basically Sardaukar from Dune.
Mixed with the jump armor from Starship Troopers.
Yep. Yeah. There's a lot drawn from that, and I mean it's understandable. I mean it's like saying, D&D is drawn from Lord of the Rings. Well, yeah, Lord of the Rings did it first.
Right.
Elves and
I love when people say they read or watch Lord of the Rings. They're like, that's so tropey. It's like, no, it invented the trope.
Yep.
It's one of the few things that's exempt from being tropey.
Yep. It's like, no. You don't understand. This is the proto fantasy. And, with sci-fi, I mean, warp travel, navigators, sorry, not warp travel, but, the way the navigators work in 40K versus Dune. I mean, it's the same thing almost. But yeah, and Dune, I haven't heard people call Dune tropey, but I'm sure with the new movies coming out, it'll get some accusations.
Right.
From
And then you just got to shake your head at that person. Like, nope.
People that don't know the history of sci-fi. But I really do love all the lore and flavor they're bringing back in this codex. I'm not done reading through the Marine Codex, but there's so much more meat to it. And as somebody who loves, really loves getting into the lore of it, I dig it. And I love the Crusade rules. I want to do a Crusade.
Oh, I want to start some Crusade games.
So
I've got a pile of plastic sprues here that need to get built.
yes. We are still trying to recapture the magic of Paths to Glory from back in the day. And
greatest campaign system ever.
We had an enormous amount of fun with Paths to Glory. It was just, and there was a lot of us that was participating in it, so that helped. There was like 12 people in our little store that were all playing in our little Paths to Glory league. And so we had lots of opponents, lots of games, lots of yeah. And Crusade is a very good approximation of a 40K Paths to Glory. So, all right.
think I would start Crusade a little less points in power than what they use, but
Me too.
that'd be my really only critique of it.
I would definitely start lower as well. I want something more akin to a couple little squads and a character.
Right.
So, like 300 points, 250 points, something like that. I think 500 points is a lot to start with because you can get a lot in 500 points if you're being sneaky.
Yeah, you can.
We used to play combat patrols, 500-point combat patrols, and some of the nastiness that got brought to those tables.
Oh, I took there was a combat patrol tournament one time, and I took a Grey Knight strike squad inside of a Rhino. The Rhino would just move up into rapid fire range, and they'd get out of the hatch and just shoot their Cybele ammo and cast second powers from inside until my opponent dealt with the Rhino.
And then they had a full strike squad of Grey Knights to deal with.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we love the new Codex.
Sure do.
Any other thoughts there, Nova?
Not about the Codex, no. I'm
Okay.
just really hoping that this is the general direction that they take it in, which
Me too.
I'm assuming it is, because I haven't got the Death Watch supplement yet, and I need to. But I imagine that they're just going to build more onto it.
I want the Death Watch supplement, and I don't even play Death Watch.
Right? Because
But-
they're so cool.
They're only going to be, what, 30?
Yeah, the supplements are 30.
Yeah, so that's so much more affordable. And that's another thing that we really love is them going back to core book and supplements. Third edition was the same way. Core book, and then you had a Space Wolf supplement, a Dark Angel supplement, a Blood Angel supplement. So we are going back to that, and I love it.
Codex Armageddon supplement, and that had Templar and Salamanders in it.
Yep. Templar, Salamanders, Speed Freaks, and Armageddon
Steel Legion.
had 4 separate factions in it, plus lore in a book that was like 20 pages. It might have been 30 pages, but this is a tiny little book. It had lore, it had rules, it had stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of art in there, but they still fit a little bit. And yeah, and that was $20, $15.
15, 20.
So, but I think it's better. Yeah. All right then. Well, we do thank you for joining us on this video. If you like this, if you like this video, make sure to smash that like button.
Smash it.
Hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload from us.
And remember, death and duty are all we must give.
Hey, we got a quote this time.
Come on, I always have quotes. It's that one time.
Thank you for joining us for today's video.
We hope you enjoyed your time with us.
If you did, please remember to smash that like button.
Hit subscribe and click that notification bell.
So you never miss a video from us.
Until next time, we are the Armchair Generals.